On today's installment of Silver Screen News, contradictory box office, scandals, and sadly, a tragedy.
And believe it or not, we're getting Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves, all on Silver Screen News.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to our weekly movie news show. We are the Silver Screen Dudes. My name is Nico Luro.
And I'm the one AJ Anthony Jordan.
And if you guys are movie fans, this is the channel for you. We bring you all the latest, greatest, scandalous gossip, news, previews, rumors, scoops from the world of movies. So if movies are your jam, this channel should be your jam. And how do you show that? You subscribe. You click the subscribe button down below. Like the video if you haven't done so already. Make sure you tickle our little notification bell. His bell is bigger than mine, apparently. Some people have said you tickle the notification bell so you're alerted whenever a new bit of content goes up. There should be timestamps to the relevant stories down below. But without further ado, let's get straight on with what we always do, AJ. And that is, we start by talking box office.
Yes,
now, we've often said that, the model of releasing day and date in cinema and streaming doesn't work. And historically speaking, that has proven to not work. Okay, cool. Everything we know is a lie. Enter Five Nights at Freddy's, because this just doesn't make sense. But here's the story, AJ. Box office: Five Nights at Freddy's terrifies with monstrous 78 million opening. The Universal and Blumhouse pick set a slew of records and is the third biggest horror opening of all time domestically. Overseas, it earned 52.6 million for a global bow of 130.6 million. Five Nights at Freddy's is off to a historic start at the domestic box office, helping drive overall revenue. The latest offering from Universal and Blumhouse opens to a record-smashing 78 million, despite debuting simultaneously on sister streaming service Peacock. It started off with a monstrous Friday haul of 39.5 million, including 10.3 million in Thursday previews alone. Crazy. Where were we? And Thursday previews alone. The pick, which came in notably ahead of industry expectations, scared up. I love the way this reporter is very proud of himself, isn't it? Scared up, the third biggest horror opening of all time behind New Line's two It movies, as well as the best showing ever for Halloween weekend. It's also the biggest horror opening of 2023 to date, beating Scream 6 and the second biggest opening of all time for video game adaptation behind the Super Mario's movie, which came in at 146.3 million, not adjusted for inflation. The news is just as good overseas, where Five Nights at Freddy's opens to an estimated 52.6 million from 60 markets for a global start of 130.6 million against a modest 25 million production budget. It supplants New Line's The Nun 2 to boast the year's biggest worldwide start for a horror film. Freddy's passed up Halloween, which started off with blah, 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 that's all a bit irrelevant. While most critics bashed Freddy's, the audience graced the movie with an A cinema score. It is a rare for a horror pick to receive an A of any variation thereof. Universal insiders say the decision to do a day-and-date release is a win-win for the overall ecosystem. No, it's not. Only paid-tier Peacock subscribers have access. Those who want the communal experience of watching a horror movie in a theater can do so, while Peacock can woo much-needed subscribers. Streamers see notable growth in October because of Halloween-themed offerings. Before the pandemic, yada, yada, yada. We're not going to talk about the pandemic. But yeah, that is genuinely the gist of the story, AJ. Now, if it's okay with you, I'd like to start with this one.
By all means, floor is yours.
Let's not get carried away, shall we? The reality is this a fantastic success? Yes. Is it amazing that a movie with 25 million has amassed 130 million in its opening weekend? Yes, it's good for everyone. Imagine how much it would have made if it wasn't on streaming, huh? Mind blown. And here's the thing. I know they're saying, oh, yes, it's driven subscribers to Peacock. Yeah, that can't be measured because the problem you've got there is churn. So the churn basically means you subscribe on, you watch the movie or the series or whatever it is you're watching, you sign off. So this figure is seriously misleading because, like with all streaming services, it doesn't account for churn. So to say that, yeah, the subscribers went up, yeah, but how long have they stayed subscribed? Because that's where the streaming services make their money. So it's incredibly misleading from the studio's part to say that it's a success to do day and date releases. Historically, it's proven to not work. The fact that Freddy's has amassed so much money, it's the same argument as with Transformers. Oh, Transformers made 100 million opening weekend. Look how great the franchise is. No. The franchise Transformers, the movies, sucks. Imagine how good they'd be if they were good. Imagine how much money Freddy would have made if it had been cinema only release. The demand is clearly there. AJ, your thoughts?
See, it's kind of hard to disagree with what you're saying. And part of the argument also falls into it. Can we also quantify what else Peacock has released? As a UK fan, I don't have to worry about it, but I may have signed up because I wanted to see what WWE Network has got going on, because that's where you find it there. There are many other factors, but I'm not going to dismiss the Freddy thing, because essentially for Five Nights at Freddy's, as I said on our live show, which just happened yesterday, I'm familiar with the foundation of this, but I can't remember if it was my brother, cousin, it could even be nephew who was watching it. I was like, what is this weird animation horror that has popped up? But however, I have a colleague at work who mentioned it to me, and they were like, oh, I'm really excited for Five Nights. So there is a cult following, and cult followings do breed success. So people will essentially do it. And I mean, there is that age-old argument that you say, well, okay, we could pay $20 each for this film or whatever it is, or we just join Peacock for a month and we watch it all together in the house. And people can be prone to laziness and cheapness, so that is a win in their favor. But again, going back to what you're saying, it doesn't create the box office success or the actual revenue you can make if you're diminishing your returns. It's a 50-50, because I believe the world wants to believe that this is the future. But again, you've heard us say it from the beginning to the end. Could it be the future? Possibly. I'm not here to discuss that. What I do want to say, think of the great cinema successes and moments you've had. Not for money, the enjoyment you have had as a cinema goer in any of your favorite films. I will quote Endgame or Avatar 2. That is an experience. I have a massage chair that I'm sitting on right now. It cannot give me the 4D experience I've had when I've gone to see both Avatar movies. There are experiences and moments in cinema that you cannot replicate at home currently, unless you've got a very good budget. And it's on you to make it happen. If you don't support cinema, when it's gone, don't be out there saying, oh boy, I miss cinema. And that's the key thing. So Five Nights at Freddy's, congratulations. It's a big thing. It's not something I'm familiar with. I may check it out. It doesn't seem like my product, but well done on both platforms. But think of the bigger picture, people.
Yeah, well said. I can assure you, this is most definitely not an AJ product. This one is not for you, AJ. But I want to hear what you guys think. Are you being I'm gonna say it. Are you being brainwashed into believing that streaming is the future when it's actually shown to be nothing but a financial disaster until now? Crazy to think that, but it really has. Do you believe that streaming is the future? Do you adamant that there's a world where both of these two ecosystems can coexist? Do you kind of echo my thoughts and think if Freddy had only been released in the cinema, imagine it would have made even more? Let us know all your thoughts down below. And on to our next story, AJ. We got something fun here. Oh, yeah. Should we talk about Rachel Zegler?
Go for it. This poor girl.
Poor Rachel. This one isn't actually on Rachel. This is Disney just not doing things right. It's very hard to continue to talk about this, because look, we've said in the past that the idea to cast 7 magical, racially diverse spirit penguin people instead of actual
Dwarves. It's in the name. It's in the name. We're not even being offensive here. It's in the name of the title.
Actors is a joke. And of course, we're like, oh my God, you're being so like closed-minded. It's like, well, the irony of the whole thing was that actually, no, it's the people advocating for diversity, but not realizing that doing such advocation is against diversity, because guess what? Yes, there's not enough roles for women and Black people and Asians in Hollywood. No doubt. You know who's got even less roles? Dwarves. So now the biggest dwarf roles come along, and it's not been given to dwarves. And the outcry was that the pushback against this was, which we were part of, was being like labeled, which is what the left love to do. They love to label. We somehow became on the side of the right-wing extremists because we were like, well, no, why not give dwarves a chance? Disney have heard us. Sort of. Sort of, AJ. Here's the full story. Live action Snow White reveals first look at its 7 CGI dwarves. We have the first official look at Disney's live action Snow White, including the dwarves that have been reimagined with the help of computer animation. Disney debuted the first image along with the news of its delay on Friday being pushed back almost exactly a year to March 2025. We also get the first official look, barring leaked set images, of Rachel Zegler as the eponymous princess, along with Bashful Dog, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Sneezy. If you ask me, there's a bit of an uncanny valley issue with the dwarves, with clear effects made to recreate the cartoonish look from the 1937 original, but you can take a look at yourself below. Not pictured is Wonder Woman star Gal Gadot, who is starring in the movie as the evil queen. The dwarves in particular have been subject to a bit of controversy in the lead up to Snow White. Peter Dinklage had some tough words for Disney regarding the subject matter. Literally no offense to anyone, but I was a little taken aback when they were very proud to cast the Latina actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, he said on Mark Maron's WTF podcast last year. You're progressive in one way, but then you're still making that effing backward story about 7 dwarves living in a cave together. What the F are you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox? For its part, Disney responded to Dinklage's criticism with the following statement to Entertainment Weekly. To avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film, we are taking a different approach with these 7 characters and have been consulting with members of the dwarfism community. Clearly, there's also been rumors that Disney would have non-dwarf actors. Rumors? These are not rumors, IGN. This article is from IGN. I just want that to be clear. There's also been rumors that Disney have non-dwarf actors playing the dwarves, although that now appears to be false. Disney still hasn't released any cast info for the dwarves. Snow White is being directed by Mark Webb from a script co-written by Barbie's Greta Gerwig and Erin Casida Wilson. Okay, a few things. Sorry that I keep going first this week. It wasn't rumored. The set photos leaked. We had the 7 magical people. Literally, our most viewed video on the Silver Screen Dudes YouTube channel is the Snow White Wokeism Gone Mad video. It's top playlist on our homepage. Go check it out. The set photos are right there above both of our heads. So don't you dare try and play this as if, oh, it was a rumor. AJ, your thoughts on the whole thing?
So I feel confused. I was the because now we've got the computer generated dwarves. Now I'm saying that without any offense because the title has now gone back to Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, from what I'm understanding. Now there's a few things. There's a lot to unpack on this, and I'm gonna have to take it in stages. First of all, have they brought Rachel back while Rachel's the villain in order to get her there to do it? Because this doesn't look like fan art. It looks like official Disney release.
That is official.
Right. So we've gone from one thing to another. Now, I've realized that in order to not offend Peter Dinklage, we've hired 7 people who have gone and told friends and family, hey, look at this screenshot. This is me on a Disney movie. Now, a bit like good old Emma to Neil Dashwood in WWE, they're like, oh, my bad. I've now been released because XYZ reason. That's that. We've now gone from it's offensive to hire dwarves so badly that we're going to CGI dwarves because the only dwarf that matters apparently is Peter Dinklage, and that's there. And now, while I'm on this subject, I need to understand this, and I'm very open to being educated here, people. Please don't think I'm dismissing this. What are you on this soapbox for, Peter? We've given a chance to create 7 stars who can go on to be anything they want later on.
Maybe the next Peter Dinklage.
Well, But you get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If your whole platform is about creating stars, let's use the ignorance in our favor. Like, I'm not saying it was the world's best call for it or that there's huge success for them, but we have had four black guys being ends with attitude when we made the new NWA movie. You've given a platform to four black guys to become something. It could be we've had Steve McQueen make a name for himself for celebrating what 12 years a slave. That's not the most progressive thing for black people to want to act in. And I know I may sound very ignorant, but I want to know what the problem is for us acknowledging the most
Classical.
recognizable name. Like, anytime we have people of a shorter stature, I'm not saying this to be offensive. I'm being very cautious with wordings because I want to say, because I'm not going to say every time I see a short person, I think Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. However, every time a smaller person is in films, and the society is called the Dwarf Society. Am I right? I'm trying to not be offensive.
Correct. Dwarf
Right.
community, yeah.
The dwarf community has come out and said that, but everyone in the dwarf community who's been in films, I've seen the jokes being made. I'm going back to Bad Santa. I'm going back to other films where this has been
Hornswoggle, for Christ's sake.
well, this is it. We've got people willingly playing a leprechaun in eras. Now, you might say it's distasteful because I'm not saying that the WWE have always done stuff right. Trust me, I'm the first to admit they do stuff wrong. But I'm also here just trying to acknowledge what the issue is here, because a well-loved story, and it's not that the dwarves are seen as the villains. This is what I want to, it's not like we're recreating Birth of a Nation and we're going to have the evil black man. And I'm not doing this as a black man trying to point this case out. The Seven Dwarves are lovable characters that people have gone to follow throughout.
And they're heroes.
They are the heroes of the film. So I don't see where there's a negative connotation in it. And now the fact that we've reverted from this and now created a CG version of it, I'm sure you must find more offensive than had we hired 7 actual dwarves and given them a platform to go forward. I feel like I'm going in a circle and I don't want to. But please, if you are a dwarf, if you happen to be Peter Dinklage, please explain below to me what I'm missing, because I'm very open to being like, I get it. It's not mindless, and even though these are lovable characters, it's not this mindless drones that are the Oompa Loompas, and now we're going to be like, oh, no, that's offensive, that's why you're using them. These are people who have been acknowledged as dwarves, and the fact that they live together is not a problem. There are many stories where a group of people live together. It's not
No. Okay, so on that, he didn't like the fact that the dwarves were portrayed in Snow White as, working in the caves and digging up diamond mines, But
I'm not going to be funny, but when the Brothers Grimm wrote it, you couldn't be an IT analyst, could you? There was only going to be a certain amount of jobs available. They lived in a secluded community outside of everything, and that's how she discovers them. We have 3 witches who brought up, not 3 witches, 3 fairies who brought up Cinderella.
not Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty. It's the mythology of the story. I don't think it's made with. You've made them heroes.
Literally,
there was nothing about them. You get what I'm saying? They were still made heroes. It's not like, I'm not even going to say it because I'm going to sound offensive if I said it. You know how we have Scrappy Doo screaming puppy power. It's not like they were screaming dwarf power, and I've said it. It's not like it's anything offensive. They just happen to be dwarves. That was it. So I don't see the offense in it if you've made them the hero. But again, I'm sitting here waiting to be educated in what would be wrong.
So look, here's my take on this as far as the offense in the 1937 depiction of dwarves are. Kind of echoing what you've said about how the Brothers Grimm originally portrayed them. You've got to remember, this first and foremost is a fantasy movie. The dwarves of fantasy, just like the ones in Tolkien who are deep underground digging for mithril and rubies and diamonds and gold and the works, right? That's very much the kind of dwarf we're getting in Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. The actual, real, non-fantasy dwarf, the dwarfism community, are nothing to do with that. It's not about portraying the real-to-life people of the dwarfism community as these little fantasy creatures. It just happens to be, hey, reality check. Fantasy creatures, the people of the dwarfism community would be perfect to play them for stature reasons, unless you want to hire non-dwarf actors and do what they did in Lord of the Rings and do a forced perspective thing to make the big people seem smaller. You can do that, sure. But you're talking about standing on your soapbox, Peter. Surely your soapbox should be made for the betterment of opportunity for the dwarfism community. There are no bigger roles for a dwarf to play than these roles, stereotypical they may be. There's nothing offensive in them. They're not a condemnation on the status quo of the dwarf society, of the dwarfism community. They are a fantasy story. That is all they are. There's no political messaging here, other than from Disney, who clearly heard your soapbox words so well that they decided to not even cast dwarves and cast 7 magical, racially diverse people of all the colors of the rainbow and genders. And look how that backfired, to the degree that now we're in a place where we can't cast dwarf actors, we can't cast people of diversity, so no one gets to roll. We're doing CGI roles. Here's an instance of political correctness gone mad, and everyone needs to STFU. You wanted to say
one last question, and I'm hoping you can answer it. In the Bergerac film, let's just come up.
Cyrano?
Yeah. Was it not the last film he was in?
Cyrano de Bergerac, yeah.
Yeah. Was it not that they altered it from a look to now his diminutive stature being the issue of his heartbreak and uncertainty of getting the girl?
Well, I never saw Cyrano, so I can't comment.
So I'm pretty sure that's what I've read. Without seeing it, I'm pretty sure that's what it was meant to be. So in which case, you're using it to your advantage, yet it's a disrespect in other angles.
Exactly. It's fine when the diminutive stature is brought in because the script that you're in of this arty movie commands it. We just don't call you a dwarf. But when you've got the traditional classical fantasy depiction of a dwarf and it's dwarf people playing them, congressional hearing. I call hypocrisy of the highest degree. I call stupidity on Disney's part. I now want to hear, with fear, what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. Let us know. And we move on to our next story. That took a little bit longer, but we move on to our next story.
Yeah.
Sad times, AJ. Very, very, very sad times, because AJ, we have to bid farewell. We have to RIP someone who meant, I think, a lot to everyone of our generation. It's Friends star Matthew Perry, dead at 54, found in a hot tub at LA home. Here's the full story. Authorities responded about 4 p.m. to his home, where he was discovered unresponsive. The sources who spoke on condition of anonymity because the investigation was ongoing did not cite a cause of death. No drugs were found at the scene, sources said, but a source told the Times prescription medications were recovered at the home, and hence toxicology will be part of the investigation. A representative for Perry did not immediately respond to the Times' request for comment. Los Angeles Police Captain Scott Williams, who leads the robbery homicide division that is investigating Perry's death, said the cause of death may not be known for some time, but at this point, foul play is not suspected. The cause of death will be determined by the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office, which on Sunday officially deferred its finding pending further testing. We are devastated by the passing of our dear friend Matthew Perry, Warner Brothers Television Group, which produced Friends, said in a statement to the Times. Matthew was an incredibly gifted actor and an inedible part of the Warner Bros. Television Group family. The impact of his comedic genius was felt around the world, and his legacy will live on in hearts of so many. This is a heartbreaking day, and we send our love to his family, his loved ones, and all his devoted fans. We are incredibly saddened by the too soon passing of Matthew Perry. NBC, which aired the series for all 10 seasons, said in its own statement to the Times, he brought so much joy to hundreds of millions of people around the world with his pitch-perfect comedic timing and wry wit. His legacy will live on through countless generations. And yeah, go and check out the article on the LA Times. There's a genuinely lovely, long list of eulogies and thank yous. And yeah, and memories from Friends cast, from his friends, from his family. It's, if you grew up watching Friends, it's a long article. It's worth the read, and yeah, I'll link it down below. But geez, man, AJ, your thoughts on this?
In the history of Silver Screen Dudes, this is the first time that I think I've actually nearly broken down. Like the tears are very close to my eyes at this minute. And I'm not doing this for sympathy or anything. It's really weird, but Friends has always been like, if you are born in our era, Friends is instrumental to us.
Yep.
The other week we were talking about Friends and how it's not appreciated as much by the next generation and it's cancelled. I have loved Friends and finally got the chance to finish it just this, like 2 months ago. Finally
Wow.
finished it properly. I've been
Great, huh?
I loved it. I've always loved it. I've seen the ending, but I never saw every episode. And I finally
Right.
said, this is what I was going to do. And I committed to it. And that was my thing. I was like, I have to do it. I've been on the Friends set tour. I've done it all. I'm not gonna pretend. If anyone ever asks me who's my favorite, it was always Ross. There's something about Ross.
Oh, wrong answer. So wrong answer.
But let's go back, and it's not gameplay in here. When it comes to Chandler, look at any movie Mount Rushmore from the beginning of us starting this channel. It's been, and in the words of Chandler Bing, and it's that we back at my other workplace, we used to talk about sarcasm 101, me and my mate James, and it was all about the sarcasm of Chandler Bing. We're like, that's the king of sarcasm, and Matthew Perry delivered it so well. I was at work doing a nightclub shift, and I'm just about to close off. I'm about to cash up, and my friend goes to me. Shout out to friend who's a huge Friends fan. So this is where it felt like I was with someone I needed to be with at the time. She goes, "Is it true Matthew Perry's dead?" And I looked at her and I was like, "What are you on about?" She's like, "It's all over the social media." And I had to Google it. I stopped a count of what I was doing, and I was like, "What?" And I just saw it, and I just posted it to the guys instantly. Can't believe this. It just felt so unreal, and you see some of the older generation stars like your Arnies, your Slides and stuff, and you hear of actors passing. This one felt too close to home, felt too young.
Yeah.
And there are younger stars that have died, and there's always an RIP out there. It just hurt. And, Matthew Perry has battled a few demons along the way. And I do suspect that something very similar, and I'm going to be a bit of a wrestling fan here, but something very similar to Eddie Guerrero has happened, where they've cleaned up, but the previous abuse took its toll, and sadly, the heart attack happened, and then he's ended up where he has, and it's just a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. I don't want to over prolong it. I just feel like all I can say is, Matthew, yes, you are Chandler, but I've watched both the whole 9 and the whole 10 yards, 17 again. I've not watched every film. I've not watched every TV show you've been in, but thank you immensely for the comedy, the upbringing. I'm gonna TV. If you're a silver screen dude, TV helped to mold us, and Chandler Bing was instrumental. It's not that I hated Chandler, just Ross was my favorite. Chandler is someone I respected, loved, laughed at, could relate to on so many other levels as well. And all I can say is thank you for making that character what it was, and you will truly, well and truly be missed.
Yeah, Chandler was my favorite friend, and I'm not just saying that because of what we're discussing. He always was. I think I've, in
It's probably been said.
In the voice of Chandler Bing, the movie, Mount Rushmore, it's for a reason. This one really hits home hard. This is up there with the loss of Robin Williams. This is up there with the loss of Carrie Fisher, because it's so intrinsically connected to my and your childhood. And I'm not going to speculate what the causes of death were. I'm even going to go as far as to say is I don't care what the losses of death were. I want us all to, at this point, let Matthew rest in peace and do everything we can to just help that legacy live on. I don't want Matthew to just rest in peace. I want him to rest in peace and to live long. Because I don't care what the current generation say about Friends. I don't care how soft everyone's got. I don't care how snowflakey everyone is. Are there a few things like that? Is there a bit of an obscene amount of homophobia in Friends? Obscene, no, but it's there. So that hasn't aged well. But is the overriding message of Friends that even in the hardest city in the world, when people come together and share the struggle and share the common life experience, that brings everyone closer together. And as long as you're making each other laugh and enjoying the company of those around you who mean something to you, life will be richer. That was the ultimate message of Friends. And I genuinely believe Matthew Perry was the glue that held it all together, whether it be with his relationship with Joey, his relationship with Monica, his comedy banter with Phoebe, his purposeful avoidance of Rachel, and even his long-term friendship with Ross, which went back to their school years. The fact that
Chandler is the definition of bromance.
The fact that Brighton Kaufman, the showrunners, decided that the very last word of the show should be ushered by Chandler says it all. He was the beating heart of Friends, and I'm gonna, like, if you're younger and you're watching this and you're like, oh, what are these old guys on about, this old homophobic show? Nah. Stop throwing the labels out. It's lazy. Actually go and entertain yourself. Go and watch the first few seasons and just tell me you wouldn't like to have a group of 5 or 6 people around that who you could count on unequivocally. They are the group of friends that everyone in the world wants. AJ and I are lucky we have each other. We have our ministry gang. But everyone wants someone like Friends. Everyone wants someone like the ministry. It is effing heartbreaking that he's gone. And yeah, I want to know what you guys think. What did Chandler Bing, what did Matthew Perry mean to you? I guess for me, I'll just say bye-bye, Bingaling.
You were there for us. Yeah.
That hurt. Jesus.
I've never been so close to tears. Never been so close to tears.
Bye-bye, Bingaling just nearly set me off, actually. Oof. Jesus. Hold it together. Right. One last story, AJ. And it's the one that, frog in the throat. It's the one that you teased. Constantine 2. Nearly 20 years on. As superhero movies seem to be in an utter nosedive towards decline, hopefully Superman Legacy and DC can change that a bit. At least while Marvel seems to be in a nosedive, and while DC is in full decline, along came Polly. And in this case, along came Keanu, because apparently it's happening. Here's the full... Here. Whoop. Let's get rid of the ads. But here is the full story, AJ. Constantine 2 story being hashed out with Keanu Reeves. Subnote. Script has yet to be written, but director wants a real R-rated version. Because in Hollywood, R-rated means better. But it doesn't. But here's the full story. Variety reported last fall that Keanu Reeves was in talks to return for a sequel to Constantine, the 2005 superhero horror movie based on the graphic novels from DC and Vertigo Comics. Francis Lawrence, the 2005 film's director, offered a small but notable update on the project. The filmmaker is set to return alongside Reeves for the sequel. It turns out a script for Constantine 2 still does not exist. It got held up by the WGA strike, which is now over. But the two men and original producer Akiva Goldsman are hashing out the story. So Constantine 2 got obviously held up by the writers' strike, Lawrence recently told GameSpot, and we had to jump through a bunch of hurdles to get control of the character again because other people had control of the Vertigo stuff. We have control. Keanu and Akiva Goldsmith and I have been in meetings and have been hashing out what we think the story is going to be, and there's more meetings of those that have to happen. The script has to be written, he added, but we're really hopeful that we can get to do Constantine 2 and make a real R-rated version of it. After his work on the 2005 Constantine film, which served as his feature directorial debut, Lawrence went on to direct Will Smith in I Am Legend and then worked with Jennifer Lawrence on all 3 Hunger Games sequels. He has returned to the franchise to direct the prequel movie The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in theaters November 17 from Lionsgate. AJ, a Constantine 2 movie. Seems to be happening. How do you feel?
I'm not gonna lie. Constantine is a film I have not finished because it bored the crap out of me. I didn't find anything redeeming in it. I'll be honest. John Wick actually nearly did not get seen because I mixed up the two films at one point, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was a illegal DVD. Let's call it as it is, right? I had of Constantine, and I was like, yeah. When people started talking John Wick, I'm like, I'm not rushing to the cinema because I've seen that Keanu film. It was a confusion of Keanu films. I'm like, no, that film's quite boring until I realized who John Wick was and what have you. And I believe now that people have seen the success of John Wick and what Keanu can do in that format of R-rated, they're like, oh, let's make Constantine an R-rated and let's make it a success. And there's this wave of who Keanu Reeves is. But I have to be real, I don't think it's going to work. We're talking about a demon hunter. I found more excitement in the Constantine TV series than I did in the
Justice
film.
League Dark.
Come again?
Justice League Dark.
Well, but in that as well. But there was a TV series, so he kind of appeared in Legends of Tomorrow, and that is all about the comedy, and the character was a bit edgy. There was just nothing. I couldn't take it, and I think you realize that Constantine couldn't be taken seriously. This demon hunter in the element that they had didn't work. Now, I do challenge anyone to write below and say that there's a better film than what I've seen. Like, give it a shot, finish it off, you'll enjoy it. I found it extremely boring. I mean, the paycheck has to be really good for Keanu to say I'm going to pick this back up because he's on a tier. Granted, Matrix 4 wasn't the best moves ever made. Yeah. I wouldn't follow that up with Constantine 2. That's my personal take. If there are Constantine fans out there, by all means, I believe as a graphic novel it does really well. I don't think Constantine has worked on a big screen, and I don't see it working now with a sequel.
I'm semi-similar to you on this. I believe that there's an idea in Constantine 2 that seems to be very good. I'm a guy who likes horror. I like demon stuff. So on that basis alone, it's up my street. I like Keanu when he's doing his shtick. So that's up my street. But I'll echo your feelings about the first movie. It feels very disjointed. Tonally, it felt all over the place. You horror, you action, you both. You're not doing either or both of them together very well at all. It wanted to do a lot, and it ended up giving me a lot of beige vanilla. And the pacing was all over the place with that movie. Like, I couldn't figure out, are you going fast? Are you going slow? Are you doing action? Are you doing character development? What are you actually doing at the moment? It didn't leave a lasting impression. I think I've seen it 2 or 3 times, each time kind of hoping like, it'll get better, it'll get better. Nah, it didn't. But would I like to see it given a second chance? Sure.
Listen,
why not?
Yeah, I'll let you finish. No,
that's basically my thought. Like, I genuinely think this is the biggest non-story ever. I don't think this movie's going to see the light of day. They haven't even got a script.
Like, my thing is that if it does happen, the director's leveled up. Like the films that you mentioned after, the Hunger Games trilogy, well loved. You know, I Am Legend is a well loved movie as well. You mix that and you take the rising stock of Keanu Reeves, maybe give it a shot. But I don't necessarily feel that demon hunting is going to be R-rated because he can't do John Wick stuff against a demon. It's just not the way of it.
God, you'd want to see that though.
You'd want to, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, you man trying to kung fu Casper, it doesn't make sense. Like, you're gonna go right through it, bro. But you get where I'm going with it. But aside from that, maybe I'm just being a bit ignorant in what I'm hearing. But like, look, if it happens, best of luck to it. I'm not gonna crap on a film because the first one didn't work. Like, it does happen that a sequel can outdo it. A new vision can make it something. I would have gone down the reboot over sequel mode. Soft reboot. It happened with Deadpool. Yeah, you know, use the same character, but hey, it is the way of it.
Yeah, so that's our thoughts on the Constantine 2 movie. Are you guys excited for it, or are you falling into our camp and are like meh about it? And that also brings Silver Screen News this week to its conclusion. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Remember, these videos will come out segmented over the course of the next few days, so you can watch them as a standalone. We'll do a little newsreel roundup for you as well, so do be sure to check those out. And we just did our first live show yesterday. So check that out too. The top 10, what was it? The top 10 horror movies of the 21st century to celebrate Halloween. So loads of content for you guys to consume. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. I see there's a lot of you watching our content that haven't subscribed. So please rectify that. And we will see you next week on the next edition of Silver Screen News with me, Nicolero.
And me, the one AJ Anthony Jordan.
See you next week,
Yeah.
guys.